Now, not only is the former mayor of Baltimore, not only the former governor of Maryland, but he ran for president in 2016. He was up there on a stage against Hillary Clinton, so we'll ask him about that and much more. Very happy to have Governor Martin O'Malley joining us on the line. Governor, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you, Brian and JD, for having me.
Thank you.
The biggest take.
I appreciate that, Governor. Thank you. So let me ask you this. Let's go back to 2016 real quick, and there's plenty of stuff we're going to get to. Well, what was that like, Governor? What was that experience like for you? There's not many people in the world that can say at one point they ran for president, and you're up against Hillary Clinton. I mean, what do you remember about that 4 years ago that you take with you maybe for the rest of your life?
Many things. First of all, it was a great and humbling honor to even have the privilege to compete for my party's nomination for president. And in fact, the last time, well, that wasn't the last time I was in Vegas, but I will always remember the time I was in Vegas and on that stage with Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. Mm-hmm. Walking onto one of those presidential debates is like going into a final exam. The topic is everything.
Yep, I like that.
And for added difficulty, the time that they give you is limited to 10% of the time. So it was the most. I can honestly say, in political terms, it was probably. It was definitely the most frustrating experience of my life. I had a sense that we were headed for a loss in the fall, and yet the appeal of Hillary Clinton's candidacy within our own party, with the support of President Obama and former President Clinton, and the appeal, the gender justice appeal, if you will, of being able to vote for the first woman to run for president of the United States was too much for me to even get a word in edgewise. So
That's true.
It was frustrating.
Yeah,
I felt compelled to try. I felt duty-bound to try.
You did everything you could do. You did everything you could do, Governor, and I was at that debate, and I thought you did a really good job. One Hillary Clinton question, and it ties into Joe Biden, who I know you're supporting for president, as am I, by the way. My co-host is a Trump supporter. I'm a Joe Biden supporter. But with that being said, I felt like, Governor, and I know you don't speak for Hillary Clinton or her campaign that she ran in 2016, but I felt like she made some mistakes. I think even she would admit that. I don't think she spent enough time in those battleground states. I don't think she did the interviews she needed to do, whether that was Howard Stern or Fox News. I don't think she did enough of those types of interviews. I thought she made mistakes. So let me ask you this. What mistakes, in your opinion, do you think Hillary Clinton made that Joe Biden cannot make in the next 2 months?
I think interesting question. Pause. Deep breath. I was in 20 different states for Hillary Clinton, some of them multiple times, and was glad to have been able to campaign for her. Having said that, people wanted to see her in Michigan and Wisconsin, not me. And so I think one of the great mistakes we made as a party 4 years ago was trying to gloss over, whistle past the very real economic fear that a lot of people in our country feel about tomorrow. This is especially acute among white men over 50. Mm-hmm. Was the great irony of our time before this second recession hit with COVID and all, that unemployment was at an all-time low, and yet white male suicides were at an all-time high. Mm-hmm. On the stage at the Democratic Convention, you would have seen that group of Americans greatly underrepresented. And I admit to you, as a Democrat, I'm proud of our diversity. I believe as a nation, our diversity is our strength. But I think we make a mistake when we don't acknowledge the very real fear that many people, particularly in service industries, construction industries, who are white and male, feel about the sort of future that they are unable to get to their families and their children right now. Mm-hmm. I don't think Joe Biden's making that mistake, though, Brian. Yeah. He is speaking right to that with the message of building our country back better, about putting people to work. His Buy American announcement today in Michigan. We're Americans. We're not the we're not the victims of circumstance, and we need not be the slaves of it. We make our own tomorrow, and I believe that Joe Biden's addressing those fears and doing it in very real, economic, concrete ways.
I agree. If you're just joining us, we're speaking with former governor of Maryland, Martin O'Malley, also ran for president in 2016. Okay, Governor, so I'm an independent, right? I voted for Republicans and Democrats in my life. Here's why I'm voting for Joe Biden, and this is what I tell people. I think, and I make no apologies, I think Donald Trump is a despicable human being. And number one for me is I want someone in office that is going to be respected by people, and he respects others. I believe Joe Biden to be a decent man. I believe he's a good father. He's a good husband. That has nothing to do with politics. It has nothing to do with policy. And I can't understand why there are so many people out there that might say, well, I have a few extra bucks in my pocket. I don't care if Donald Trump attacks women based on looks or Gold Star families or immigrants. They push all that stuff aside. What would you say to those people that are willing to push that stuff aside and saying they're voting for Donald Trump anyway?
Yeah, what I would say to them is I would appeal to the need that all of us have right now for a collaborative leader, for a leader who can bring us together and not drive us apart. The toughest challenges that we have to face today can only be faced by bringing people together, whether that's climate change or building an economy that works for all of our people or building our country back better. This is going to require a collaborative leader. And I know from my time working with Vice President Biden, on the Recovery and Reinvestment Act, that Joe Biden is a collaborative leader. He brought all of the mayors together, including your own at the time, Governor Sandoval, in the Recovery and Reinvestment Act. Mm-hmm. Regardless of party, he was getting us on the phone every 2 weeks saying, ladies and gentlemen, these are the numbers I'm looking at. Why isn't this particular program working faster to get people back to work? Why is this one working, but that one is not? Right. What are the barriers? That requires a person who is constantly bringing people back to that, table of democracy that we share, and treating people with dignity and respect. I have never met an effective collaborative leader who demeaned other human beings, mocked them, let alone one who would, belittle the service of our veterans.
What do you make about that? Do you think he said that, Governor? Do you think he said that now that we're talking about that? Losers and suckers. I talk about what he said about John McCain, and that's why I believe it. What do you make of that? Do you think the president called our brave men and women in uniform suckers and losers?
Yes, I do. And I believe that what you see is what you get. You saw how horribly, I don't know what the word is, petty, demeaning he was to John McCain, even in death. He didn't want to lower the flag on the White House.
Right.
He talked about the fact that McCain was captured meant that he was a loser. These are not words that are becoming or in keeping with the longer traditions of the presidency, or even what we would teach our children.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So, it's a strange thing to see a person saying these things. But again, I think it speaks to the fear that a lot of people, let's be honest, a lot of people that voted for Donald Trump, voted for him not because they thought he could pull us together or fix things, but they too were mad at their national government.
Sure.
And the animating emotion 4 years ago, I could touch it, was, hey, give me somebody that's going to burn it down or break it. I'm sick of it, and I want to send a message.
So, Governor,
but now we see the deadly consequences.
No
of
question.
That and the incompetence.
Yeah, let's
with the COVID response.
And let's talk about the COVID response. Then we'll get to mail-in voting. So, I tell people all the time, and I'm sure you do too, Governor, how serious this pandemic is, and it's unacceptable, the fact that we are at the epicenter of it in the world, the richest country in the world, and yet look at what we're in. We're almost at 200,000 deaths, which is a horrible milestone to reach. Yet the President of the United States wants to take credit for everything. I don't understand it. And now, and schools reopening. There's no plan here, and yet you have the White House, everybody praising the president, many on the right, not all, but many on the right, saying that the response couldn't have been better. Governor, I just don't understand it.
Yeah, I don't either. We're doing a worse job of responding to this pandemic than virtually any other developed nation. The numbers of Americans who've died is now approaching 3 times that we lost in all of the years of conflict in Vietnam. And it did not need to be this way. When I was governor, I served on the Council of Governors. We met regularly with, the Department of Defense, with the head of Homeland Security, in order to prepare for things like pandemics if it hit the homeland. And one of the key assumptions of many of those exercises and the plannings was that the federal government, with its intelligence apparatus, would see it coming and would immediately kick in the awesome power of the industrial complex of the United States, in this case medical and military, in order to better prepare and to better protect Americans. We missed the jump on this. We missed it badly. It will go down in history as one of the worst and most deadly cases of political malpractice in the White House. And now with the election upon us, I think their strategy, Brian, is really to kind of tape it together, hope that people just assume that this is like a year with a lot of high car crashes, and that he'll be able to somehow eke out a majority in the election. It's too late for them to address it effectively. 200,000 Americans have died. But it's not too late for us to make a change that will allow us to contain it nonetheless.
So Joe Biden's speaking right now, Governor, and I don't know if you heard the story that came out this morning. Bob Woodward, who is a legendary journalist, did some interviews with Donald Trump, and this is a recording that CNN has where Donald Trump admitted that he downplayed the virus back in February. Joe Biden just said this is a life and death betrayal from our president. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would agree with that. We count on the president. Only the president has the feed of intelligence to protect Americans. And past presidents had a National Security Council and had the professionals in place to be able to act on that information. I don't know what he was thinking at the time.
Yeah.
Some of the best advice I got when I was in office, Brian, came from former Governor Ed Rendell. He said, make every decision as if you're not running for re-election. And what you'll find is that your batting average on making the right decisions to protect the lives and well-being of your people will go up, because you won't complicate those decisions with imagining, political consequences down the road. So just make every decision as if you're not running again, and you'll find that your batting average in making the right one goes up. Donald Trump would have been well advised to have followed, to have seen those warnings and to act on it, and he didn't. And the results have been deadly for 200,000 American families.
Sadly, I agree with you. Again, if you're just joining us, former governor of Maryland, Martin OMalley, also former presidential candidate in 2016. Okay, Governor. So I get into debates all the time, including with my co-host. All the time.
You and JD don't always agree?
No, we don't. Isn't that right, JD?
No, we seldom agree, Martin. We seldom agree.
I know JD wants me to ask you this.
If you always agreed, it would make for really crappy radio.
Exactly.
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
But I will say this: it is totally organic. We're not just being contrarian to appease our audience.
Oh no, we disagree on just about everything from sports to politics. Although we do agree more on sports than politics. But I want to ask you this, Governor, and me and JD, we get into this all the time on the air. As you know, the right wing, I think it's a right wing talking point. But Donald Trump wants to blame all the Democratic governors and the mayors for the violence and the carnage and the civil unrest throughout the country. I want to ask you this question because you're the former mayor of Baltimore. You know what's going on in Baltimore, and there's some issues there, right? And I'm not blaming you for that as the former mayor. But what would you say to people out there, like the President of the United States, for example, who doesn't put any responsibility on himself as being the leader of the free world, that only blames the Democratic mayors and governors for some of these protests, particularly the violence? What would be your response to that as someone who is a former mayor of Baltimore?
Yeah, it's an old shibboleth. I would say this. Gallup polling asks Americans year in and year out a battery of questions, and most of them are the same in order to gauge attitudes over time. The truth of the matter is Americans' trust in their national government has never been lower over the last 20 years. And yet, over that same 20 years, people's trust in their local governments is actually slightly higher. than it was before. So trust in your national government down, I think, in the mid-20s. Trust in your local government around 72%. There's actually a lot that's right about American cities. And there's a lot that's going better in many American cities. My own continues to struggle with a violent crime problem. After leading the nation for 10 years in the rate of reduction of violent crime, new election, new leadership, and people stopped doing things that work with the foreseeable consequences. That being said, cities across America have actually been using a better technology, customer service lines like 311 centers, and have become much more agile, much more responsive, much more customer-centric in their approach to delivering city services. And as a result, population in American cities is increasing and will continue to increase. In fact, there are pockets of Baltimore that continue to see inward investment and growth. Where there is public safety, people are returning to cities. So cities can sometimes become, in the lexicon of those that practice Donald Trump's politics, a certain code, a certain dog whistle, if you will. Cities are attacked as being places that permit the worst of human behavior. And I'll just leave it at that. It's an old game, and I don't think it's working for him.
But I have to ask you this real quick, and then I know JD has some questions for you. This will be my last one. If you're the mayor of Portland or Seattle, where a lot of this violence is taking place, Governor, here's where I've disagreed with them a little bit. And by the way, I don't care whether they're Republicans or Democrats. Why not ask for help? Why not have a bigger police presence? Why not arrest people? Like what took place in Minnesota to me was disgusting. Why would you just let people burn down buildings and not arrest them on the spot? Why not have the National Guard? And see, I don't see anything wrong with that, because I think if you're breaking the law, you're breaking the law. Whether you're a Trump supporter or whether, I don't care whether you're a part of Antifa. I don't care who you are. Why do you think that some of these mayors and governors have been hesitant to do that, and how would you handle it?
Yeah, there's one of the big new variables in all of this is Donald Trump being in the White House and his propensity, reflexive tendency to want to turn federal troops and police against protesters, even if it's for something as shameless as clearing Lafayette Square across from the White House and then holding up a Bible upside down, which I believe he's probably never read.
Yeah, that was a joke.
For a press stunt. So a lot of the mayors have, in a way that I would not have during my time as mayor, and I was mayor under George Bush, the younger, the mayors have had to balance whether or not bringing in a show of force exacerbates the unrest that they're trying to quell, or whether it's actually helpful. So that's what I would say. Not that I came on to defend, each of these mayors individually.
Sure, I understand.
I'm quite sure that's their thinking. Mayors are very entrepreneurial. When I was in the U.S. Conference of Mayors, I didn't know who was a Democrat or who was a Republican, and I served in that body for 7 years.
Sure.
And it was because mayors are very practical men and women in their approach to things. Yep. They don't have a budget for ideology. They have to do what works. So I'm sure that some of those mayors were thinking, wow, if I bring in National Guard help, it's just going to look like I'm aiding and abetting the sort of authoritarian turning of the police against protesters that many of the protesters are coming out to protest against in the first place. But there are certain lines, and I don't believe that it is helpful whether you have to bring in your own additional police or police from neighboring jurisdictions. Don't we think we should allow the burning down of police precincts or city halls or other public buildings?
Understood.
But it wasn't just public buildings; it was also private businesses that were being destroyed, like what happened in Kenosha and New York City, and a lot. Didn't really happen in Baltimore.
Every city.
Yeah,
it didn't really happen in Baltimore, but it happened in places that you wouldn't expect, like Nebraska, Aurora. It happened in a lot of places. And as Vice President Biden said, burning, looting, shooting, violence is not protest. It does damage to
right. The problem with that is it took him 4 months to say that. I mean, the protest, the violence that was attached to the protests, and I'm not talking about peaceful protesters. I'm talking about the rioting, the looting, the vandalism, the arson, and that started pretty much on May 26th or 29th, I believe, based on Memorial Day weekend. Now, that being said, I wanted to talk to you about Kimberly Klacik. She is running for District 7, I believe, in Maryland as a representative for Congress, and she put together. She's a woman of color. She put together a unbelievable, in my opinion, and I would say this if she was a Democrat or Republican, but just a very well put together video showcasing what Baltimore, the city of Baltimore, is. And my question, I'm asking you, did you see it? One, and two, how did Baltimore, for what you watched in that video? And there's also a show called The Wire that's based on Baltimore. So there's a lot of stigma attached to it. But based on that commercial that she more or less did, that campaign commercial. From what you see there, I mean, it's really a dilapidated. It's a city that it looks like it's in pretty bad shape. How did it get to that point?
Yeah, well, parts of it are parts of Baltimore are some of the most abject abandonment and poverty and addiction that you'll find in any city in America, and it has been, as you said, widely portrayed on not just a TV series, but on a series of TV series. So Baltimore was turned into, by the entertainment industry, a national exemplar because of the suffering that we allowed to go on here for far too long. I don't know, Miss Klacik. I've worked on issues of justice and bringing our city back for many, many years. I've never had occasion to meet her either as governor or as mayor. But the way it got here, to answer your question, is that for 30 years prior to 1999, Baltimore suffered the greatest abandonment, percentage-wise, of any city in America, and that includes Detroit. And at the same time, we were utterly ineffective at dealing with violent crime or drug addiction.
And I certainly, Governor, and I'm sorry to interject because we're running out of time, Governor, but I certainly wouldn't pin that all on you. I think that this is an issue facing mayors throughout the country. Governor, I do want to end on a happy note, if I may. We only have about a minute.
I was getting to a happy note.
Well, I think, Governor, Governor,
for 10 years, JD, Baltimore led the nation in the rate of reduction of violent crime and the rate of reduction of
that is good news.
Of drug overdose.
Right.
So
that is
10
positive.
Years, we actually did really well, and there are lots of parts of Baltimore that I'm sure wouldn't make the video.
And I don't doubt that.
In her position running.
And I don't doubt that, Governor, for 1 second. All right, Governor, I think you're going to like this because you made an appearance on The View years back. And and we have a little soundbite we want to play for you. This is Governor Martin O'Malley.
This is a happy ending.
This is awesome. This is Governor O'Malley on The View singing a Taylor Swift song. Have a listen to this.
I like it.
'Cause baby, now we got bad blood. You know it used to be bad blood. So take a look at what you've done. 'Cause maybe now we got bad blood. Hey!
I love it, Governor. That was awesome. That was so awesome. I love it.
That was described by Rolling Stone magazine as a pop culture criminal act.
Well, Governor, in all seriousness,
by the way, that came out like 3 years ago. That song.
Governor, in all seriousness, thank you so much for joining us.
War crime.
Governor, I really do appreciate your time, and
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot,
We
Martin.
appreciate you, Governor. Thank you so much. That's Governor Martin O'Malley.